Hey Watchers, today's episode explores the greatest kaiju to come out of Japan. This movie is the first American version to hit the silver screen, so call out the army and run for cover, cause it's time for 1998's monster film starring the king of monsters himself, Godzilla. Welcome to the Midnight Watch Podcast, the show where we discuss classic, cult, and modern classic movies.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Josh Baruto, and we review movies that are at least 10 years old. Fair warning, we're big on spoilers here, straight from the get-go.
We rate these movies in 4 categories. Number 1, the level of impact and success it had when it was released. Number 2, how relevant is it today? Number 3, our own personal enjoyment of this movie. And number 4, is it a midnight watch?
What is a midnight watch? It's a film which completely captures your attention, drawing you in. No matter what time or what part you start watching the movie, you have to finish it.
That's a lot of fish. That's like the number 1 line that comes up into my head every time I remember this film. It's
among all the goofy lines that Matthew Broderick says.
Oh yeah, no, that's just the number 1 line. Like I immediately see him in that super 90s hat, and he's just like, "That's a lot of fish."
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Man. Yeah.
I just love Jean Reno in his constant quest for a decent cup of coffee.
Oh, you're talking about Jean Reno?
Jean Reno, sorry.
Yeah. No, Jean Reno kills it in almost any movie he's in. Like I feel like he's got the Sean Connery effect where he makes the movie better just because he's in the movie. Like
I agree. I was just thinking as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, why isn't he in more well-known stuff anymore? Because he was kind of a major dude in the 90s,
right?
Or maybe the early 2000s. I know the first thing I saw him in was The Professional.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the Professional.
Yeah, which I was thinking about that movie after when I was watching this one. I was like, we definitely got to review that film.
Dude, I love that movie. That was
no spoilers.
That was amazing. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Do I really love it, or am I being sarcastic?
I know how sarcastic you can get sometimes.
Oh, you know me.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. Total side note, but Jean Reno was in Amnesia Warriors 3. He played himself in that movie or that video game. Did you ever play that?
Which one is that?
I think it was Amnesia Warlords. It was on PlayStation 2, and the first one was just Amnesia. And then
was it a samurai game?
Yeah. Samurai game. You're like fighting demons and stuff like that. It was a really cool game.
I vaguely remember that one. Yeah.
They just released the first one back on the Switch, and I'm like super tempted to get it because it was a Capcom game, and I don't know. It's just a lot of fun. But yeah,
cool.
If I remember correctly, they just used his likeness though. They didn't use his voice, which I was like, why? That's weird. But anyways,
yeah. I mean, he's iconic with his voice and his looks. I mean, there's no not recognized. That's terrible English. There's no not recognizing.
Never such a thing. Never had. No, nor
never
will.
Had no. Never had. Never happened.
Never say never. Not worth. All right. So, let's see what we got going on here. Let me just drop some knowledge real quick. This movie is called Godzilla, and the real Godzilla fans actually called this Godzilla. They call him Gino or Zilla. So Gino stands for Gino, and that's Godzilla in name only, which is 100% correct. So because
I would agree.
Yeah, I know that they obviously made this movie called it Godzilla because there's already a built-in fan base. But this movie,
right.
If they literally named it anything else, I think it would have actually. I don't know if it would. Let's jump into that in a little bit.
Sure.
So this is
first things first.
Right. This is directed by Roland Emmerich. The screenplay is by Roland Emmerich and his writer partner Devlin. The score is by David Arnold. The budget originally was $125 million, but then that got pushed out to about $150 million. And then the box office was $379 million. That's worldwide gross. It did not do well in the States. It bombed pretty fast after, it had a good opening, but then it went down pretty quick. But overseas, a lot of places that had never seen kaiju movies before, it totally killed there. So that's kind of where it saved it. But the thing that's kind of funny is the producers, they saw the final cut of this film. And the whole marketing scheme, though, I actually really like the marketing scheme. They did this with Hunger Games as well. They didn't show you Godzilla in any of the trailers, any of the posters, any of the merchandise or anything like that. You remember that?
I kind of do. Actually, I was just thinking as you were saying this that I don't remember. I didn't rewatch the preview, which I've been trying to do for the last several episodes, is watch the original preview or trailer.
Right.
For these movies, just to kind of put myself back in the time period if I can. And I totally forgot to do that for this one. I was on vacation. I blame that. And
in New York, of all places.
No. A little south of there.
Okay. Redding, California. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, and I thought that was interesting though, because the posters, the movies, the trailers didn't show it. The trailers did a really good job of just like ramping up the expectation and the excitement of this movie, and I thought it was cool. I really liked the trailers, but the producers they did not have good faith in this movie, so they did not screen it before they released it. They didn't do any like test showings or anything like that, which I think would have actually would have saved some, because they wanted to keep it under wraps, because they thought the saving grace would be that like people wanting to see Godzilla, which probably was the case for the first couple weekends, but then it dropped off dramatically. So yeah, this movie sits at 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's still better than Batman versus Superman. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. It's Batman
I was
versus
Superman. That actually, that seems kind of harsh to me.
It does. I agree.
Obviously we're going to get into it more later, but I don't think that's fair. It's not a terrible movie. I
think this movie is a great pick for people to just hate on, to be honest, because it's so easy to hate this movie because they completely missed the whole point of Godzilla. It's bad. So,
well, I remember not being a fan when it came out, but we'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
Dang it, we're hot and ready for this one.
Chomping at the bit, yeah.
Chomping,
not chopping. Chopping at the. Well, right.
We do like to mix metaphors here on the show. If you haven't noticed that,
sometimes we even speak English. This movie is starring Matthew Broderick, Jean Reno, Maria Pitillo, Hank Azura, Kevin Dunn, and we got Harry Shearer, and we got some other people, whatever. Anyways, we got the Robert Ebert and Gene Siskel lookalikes, which was Michael Lerner, and where's the other dude? And the other lookalike guy, I don't have his name written down. Anyways, which I thought was kind of funny that they intentionally were poking fun at both of them, because Ebert and Siskel like trashed Emmerich's other flicks, the Independence Day and Stargate. And so I definitely know they had something to say about this movie, because Stargate.
Well, that's funny that going into it, he was ready for him.
Right, dude. They were like throwing jabs at everybody. Like, I can't remember. There was one guy who's like a lookalike for. I can't remember if he was somehow connected to the original Toho Godzilla movies, and they had a lookalike who was the first person to get killed in this movie on purpose to kind of mess with him. And I was like, dude, like, why do you guys you're already out of the gate? You're just like wanting to fight somebody,
right?
Anyways, yeah. So, what do we want to do? Where we first see this, or we want to do synopsis?
Oh man, yeah. Let's say where we were when we first saw it.
Yeah, we kind of go ahead and lead into that. So you said you didn't like this movie the first time you saw it.
It just seemed corny to me, I guess. I mean, it was definitely a big blockbuster. I remember all the hype for it. I don't know. Did you have some of the toys from this one, or were you a little too old for that at that point?
I want to say somebody gave me a Godzilla toy, because I had an original Godzilla toy growing up.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like the one from from the Japanese ones.
Right, and I think maybe it wasn't.
It was probably the same toy we had.
It was probably the same toy. Yeah. A bunch of cheapskate parents.
Regifting never gets old.
There you go. That's the way to save. So yeah, I might have been just like maybe some neighbors or something like that. I don't think I actually had that.
Because I remember seeing the merchandise all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like that was, to me, I remember thinking, it was like thinking back, I'm like, I think that was a fairly popular movie in that it seemed like everybody saw it. I know it got dogged on a lot, and I remember when I finally saw it, because I didn't see it like in theaters, but I'm sure I saw it fairly soon thereafter, like rented it or whatnot.
Right.
And it definitely, I mean, I don't think I was a big Matthew Broderick fan at the time. And it was just goofier, I think, than I was expecting. I think I was really expecting like a monster movie. And being a fan of the original Godzilla stuff, it just, really
You say you were?
I was.
Okay.
Fan of the original Godzilla stuff, the Japanese ones. And this just didn't, strike me as that. Plus it did some of the effects, I remember even in the moment kind of seeming a little corny to me.
I have something to say about that actually, technical wise, but I'll talk about that later.
But yeah, so it didn't really grab me at the time, but I remember it being kind of a phenomenon. Like I said, I remember probably you and your friends playing with it, even if it wasn't your toys. I just remember seeing the merch for it. I remember seeing kids wearing T-shirts. It definitely seemed like it was aimed at younger generation, because I was 18 when that came out. Right.
Well, when Independence Day came out 2 years earlier, that was like a huge movie, and I don't think that one was initially aimed towards kids. I think that was more of like an actual like PG-13 action movie.
Legit, yeah, some kind of scary sci-fi almost. It was It seemed pretty serious because I remember being blown away.
Right.
I remember my friend Tim seeing it, and he was like, "You gotta see this movie. It's incredible." And being a big Star Trek family, they're super into space science fiction, and he was super excited about that one. So yeah,
That's
you would
awesome.
think this movie coming out after that one and being I don't remember people ever hating on. I don't think I paid attention to what the critics thought about Independence Day, but I just remember that was a huge movie.
Right.
I thought it was amazing. So then when this comes out, I could see where the hype would have been big because of the director.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't remember. I was too young when Independence Day came out. I was like 9. So I just remember going to a birthday party and some kids were like, "What's your favorite movie?" to the main person. And the kid's like, "Oh," and this other kid was like, "Independence Day?" I had no idea what he was talking about. And he's like, "Yeah, I love that movie." And then like, he's like,
of course, probably none of them had probably seen it.
Right. No, exactly. He was like, he literally, the next thing he said was, "I can't wait to see it." And I was like, at the time, I was like, even then, I was like, wait a minute, you haven't seen the movie and it's your favorite film? But yeah, I did that. I didn't know what Independence Day was for a long time. And then I finally saw it later, which we'll probably review that movie. Hey, maybe this year for the 4th of July, we could do that.
Yeah, I'm sure no one's ever done that on their movie podcast. That'd be probably so original.
We are extremely original. Yeah.
Groundbreakers.
The first time I saw this movie, so it came out in 98. So I was, I was 11 then when it came out. And I remember seeing the merch everywhere. And like there was T-shirts going to Kmart and stuff. There was just like, it was everywhere. And it's kind of funny because the background with that is the company did a Batman versus Superman move where they dropped like almost another $100 million just into marketing to really push this film. That's why we saw it everywhere, even though, so technically they more broke even with the 379 million. So, because if they spent about 250 to almost 300 million for total budget for everything, they only made like 79 million. So it didn't really do too well. I don't remember the first time I saw this. I think I actually bought it on DVD and watched it. So that had to be probably around like 2007, 2008 or something like that. But then,
so quite a while later then.
Right. And I bought it intentionally because I really wanted to see it when I was a kid, but I was like, that's a scary movie. There's no way I'll be able to watch that. So I started catching up on flicks, and I remember being disappointed by the movie too. I was just like, what's missing from this movie? I couldn't grab it at that time why I didn't like it, because I'm not a big Godzilla fan.
Okay.
And I never had been. I was not really into monster movies, but part of that I think is upbringing, not really knowing like, what to watch or anything. Yeah. Did you watch a lot of Godzilla movies like at friend's house?
No, I think I've only seen the original one because it was on the Sci-Fi Channel back when that first came out, and they played just a lot of early sci-fi stuff, a lot of cool B movies and whatnot. So I know I've seen probably most of the first one because it was on TV, so it was, kind of chopped up, and probably bits and pieces of some of the other ones as well. But I was always definitely fascinated by it, and that toy we were talking about, I love that thing.
Right.
Played with that a lot.
I forgot. I did see the original Godzilla movie, the 1954 movie or something like that.
Yeah.
And I did like that when I saw it. I thought it was good. I liked it. I thought it was a fun movie. And then I've seen snippets of other ones like King Ghidorah and I think Godzilla 2000. There was I don't know. I kind of want to go back and start watching them and seeing, because I have some friends that are like massive kaiju fans, and I always feel like I'm missing out on it. Like I didn't get it. But anyways.
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess that's where we first saw that. So yeah, let's get the synopsis going and then let's do it.
Absolutely, because I think we got a lot to talk about on this one.
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you, Wikipedia. An iguana nest is exposed to the fallout of a military nuclear test in French Polynesia in the South Pacific Ocean. Or rather, in the South Pacific Ocean, a Japanese fishing vessel is suddenly attacked by a giant creature with only one fisherman surviving, Dr. Nick. I just watched the movie and I can't pronounce his name. Tatopoulos. Which is like a running joke in the movie. No one can ever say his name. So there we go.
Right.
This is a perfect name for our show. An NRC scientist is in the Chernobyl exclusion zone researching the effects of radiation on wildlife, but is interrupted by an official from the U.S. State Department. In Tahiti, a mysterious Frenchman questions the traumatized survivor over what he witnessed, who repeatedly replies, Gojira. Nick is sent to Panama and Jamaica to study a trail of wreckage leading to the recovered Japanese fishing ship with a massive claw marks on it. Nick identifies skin samples he discovered in the shipwreck as belonging to an unknown species. He dismisses the military's theory that the creature is a living dinosaur, instead deducing it is a mutant created by nuclear testing. The creature travels to New York City, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. The city is evacuated before the U.S. military. On Nick's advice... What? The city is evacuated before the U.S. military, on Nick's advice, lure the creature into revealing itself with a... Oh, good Lord. Let me start that over again, folks. Here we go. The city is evacuated before the U.S. military, on Nick's advice.
Aren't you, Wikipedia? You failed us.
They lure the creature into revealing itself with a large pile of fish. Their attempt to kill it fails, however, and only causes further damage before it escapes. Nick collects a blood sample and, by performing a pregnancy test, discovers the creature reproduces asexually and so is collecting food for its offspring. Nick also meets up with his ex-girlfriend, Audrey Timmons, a young aspiring news reporter. While she visits him, she uncovers a classified tape in his provisional military tent concerning the monster's origins and turns it over to the media. She hopes to have her report put on TV as to launch her career, but her boss, Charles Kamen, uses the tape in his report, declaring it his own discovery, and dubs the creature Godzilla. As a result, Nick is removed from the operation and disowns Audrey, before being kidnapped by the mysterious Frenchman, Philippe Rocher. Revealing himself as an agent of the French Secret Service, Philippe explains he and his colleagues have been closely watching the events to cover up their country's role in the nuclear testing that created Godzilla. Suspecting a nest somewhere in the city, they cooperate with Nick to trace and destroy it. Meanwhile, Godzilla resurfaces and dives into the Hudson River to evade a second attempt by the military to kill it, where it is attacked by Navy submarines. After colliding with torpedoes, Godzilla sinks, believed to be dead by the authorities. Nick and Philippe's team, followed by Audrey and her cameraman, Victor Animal Pilati, find the nest inside Madison Square Garden with over 200 eggs. The eggs begin to hatch, and the strike team are attacked by the offspring. Nick, Animal, Audrey, and Philippe take refuge in the garden's broadcast booth and successfully send out a live news report to alert the military. A prompt response involving an airstrike is initiated as the four escape moments before the Air Force bomb the arena. Audrey and Nick reconcile before the adult Godzilla, having survived, emerges from the garden's ruins. Enraged by the deaths of its brood, it takes its rage out on the four, chasing them across Manhattan. After a taxi chase, they manage to trap Godzilla within the cables of the Brooklyn Bridge, allowing the returning Air Force to shoot it. Godzilla dies from its wounds, and the remaining citizens and authorities celebrate. Audrey tells Kamen that she works or quits working for him after what he did before leaving with Nick. Philippe, after taking the tape Annabelle was recording and promising to return it, he does this after removing certain contents. He thanks Nick for his help and parts ways. In the ruins of Madison Square Garden, a single surviving egg hatches and the hatchling roars. So there you have it.
You use the word strike team very loosely because
oh my goodness,
if that's a strike team, then God help us all.
I agree. Well, as soon as I read that, I was thinking like, there's not a single badass in this whole movie. Like they're just everybody's just kind of goofy.
Yeah, no, I think Jean Reno, the only scene that he has where he's kind of cool is like after they finish the saying like, hey, this is what's going on. They do the news report. Then he's like, they're like, I guess we just sit around and die. And he's like, hey, follow me. And then he like throws the, the thing out the window and rappels down the side. And I'm like, oh, cool. This is Jean Reno. And that's about it. That's about all. Oh, and then also Jean Reno, according to this movie, is the greatest wheelman of all time. Because if Godzilla was like outdistancing those like helicopters, like just losing them, but yet Jean Reno behind a New York taxi is just staying ahead of Godzilla.
I mean, who knew a Crown Vic was that great of a car to escape vehicle? Right.
It's not the wheels; it's the man behind the wheels.
Right. Look out, Steve McQueen.
Right. I mean, he continued to be such a great character in La Femme Nikita and Ronin. He was the wheelman in that movie. Mission Impossible.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they were like, I'm sure they saw this movie and they were like, we need to have that guy in this movie.
Well, I think some of those movies came out first, thankfully. No, but thankfully he can be funny, and he's been funny in a lot of other movies too. Because typically he is like a really tough character, which is what you love about him.
Right. Like you said.
With the Professional, it's going to be awesome when we cover that one.
And then like Empire of the Wolves or, dang it, I forgot the serial killer movie he's in, like Fallen Angel or something like that. I can't remember the name. Anyways.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah. Did you see action guy Al Leong in the beginning of this movie?
Yes, dude, that's in my notes. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's totally him.
I was like, it's him. And for like 2 seconds, but I was just like, yeah, that's legit. Like
that was a solid cameo, man. That was absolutely a gift to anybody that's a fan of his, because we've talked about him before. He was in
Die Hard.
Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, he's just the most like iconic like henchman in so many movies. It was awesome.
I was watching another flick and it had Danny Trejo in it, just a small bit, and basically Al Leong could have been like Danny Trejo, I think, because Danny Trejo started off as being that one henchman that like you could just immediately recognize him, and then he got so famous that now people actually know his name. He's got speaking parts. He's in commercials. He's
He has his own movies.
Exactly.
I don't think Al Leong ever had his own movies. Not that I'm aware.
I don't think so. And unfortunately, maybe he's not a good actor. Maybe he's just a stuntman, but who cares? Like, he's so much fun to watch,
Yeah, I think even if we love Danny Trejo, but let's be real. He's kind of a terrible actor when it comes to like his. Well, okay.
I don't know if he's terrible.
Specific. Let's be more specific. In certain roles, he can definitely nail the tough guy thing. But anytime he tries to really lay it on thick with, I don't know, any emotion other than rage, he's just a little bit goofy. But that being said, we still love him though. He's such a fun character, and I think for sure that Al Leong, I don't know, maybe he's got a funny voice, but I don't think it matters. I think he still would have done really well, like kind of in a niche B action movie role, kind of like, because Danny Trejo's got a ton of straight to streaming kind of movies that are all super fun.
Oh yeah. What else did I got a lot of notes on this. I'm trying to figure out where to start.
I know it's tough. Well, let me start just with a thought I had earlier. This movie to me is 100% like aimed to me, I think, at kids. Like it feels like a family action adventure type movie. It never gets too intense. Mm-hmm. It's got the whole dinosaur angle like Jurassic Park, but it never commits to like the dinosaur terror and gore and I say
Right.
I use gore loosely, that Jurassic Park does. I mean, probably the most intense parts with any of the, monster carnage, maybe is when the babies are chasing them at the end.
Right,
And you
but
get kind of that Jurassic Park, we're trapped in a building and we can't get out.
Right.
But the way the music never lets you go to that really dark place where you're freaking out. It always kind of makes it more just adventurous than dire.
it's like 90s high adventure music.
Yeah. And so to me, like, as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, well, this is kind of a terrible monster movie, but it's not a bad action adventure movie that has, this creature in it, because he looks way more dinosaur like, and especially with Jurassic Park being as big as it was, I could see the appeal there. But it really, I don't know. We can discuss this further. I think it's maybe obvious that it's a terrible Godzilla movie.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a fun giant creature movie though. And like I said, I feel like even mom and dad, who were super conservative back then on movies, as we've talked about endlessly, I sort of feel like they would have been okay with this one, because it really,
I don't know,
intense.
I don't think so.
Even in the time, I know later they would have. I'm sure if dad watched it now,
Well, yeah, I know dad likes this movie now, actually, but there's a fair amount of swearing in this movie. And so
there you go.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't have been able to watch it. But yeah, no, dad likes this movie now. I agree what you're saying. It's a terrible Godzilla movie, but as for a fun, dumb monster movie, yeah, I think it's actually pretty good. And you're right, it is.
Yeah.
It definitely does. It does feel like it's aimed more towards a younger generation. Which is kind of weird though, because like Stargate didn't feel like that. Independence Day didn't, and I would say almost if not all of the other Roland Emmerich movies, they're aimed towards a kind of an older demographic.
Right, and this absolutely felt like it was aimed at a very broad audience, if not, like I said, specifically to kids. And I don't mean that just because I remember seeing all the merch, because we've seen merchandise for other way more intense movies that probably kids shouldn't see when they're younger.
Well, like Alien,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Right. I remember my friends had the Alien toys and they had the Godzilla toys.
Right.
So.
And this one is for sure like would have been a fun family movie. And especially like when you line this up with, Marvel movies that we watch today that, you take the kids to, and those are way more intense and terrifying at times than this movie was. So and maybe it was a marketing issue. Maybe they really didn't aim it the right direction, or, if they were kind of hoping that adults would be more behind it. Mm-hmm. But maybe if it was not, I don't call it a family movie, but just like I said, it just felt like kids could watch this movie and it would have, it should have just killed as far as that goes. I mean, it did. I feel like the merch probably did pretty well. Well, as far actually, as kids buying the toys, or did it not? It's
funny you mentioned that. I thought the same thing, but then I was reading up on it, and the company that had the rights to the toys went out of business 3 years later because they had so much backstock that the stores weren't buying it from them anymore because they weren't selling it. So which I was kind of surprised. I actually like the design of this Godzilla. I think that he's pretty cool looking. If you completely separate it from the actual Toho industry, because that's what I said earlier. He's a terrible looking Godzilla, but he's a cool looking creature. Some kind of mutant dinosaur for sure. Right. He definitely has the iguana look, which is what they heavily imply in the intro. Well, it's weird because there's nothing in this movie besides the one Japanese guy that says Godzilla at the beginning of the film that is connected to Godzilla, because even the atomic testing is French people in this movie. It's not Hiroshima and the American atomic testing and all that stuff. And it's literally, that's why the French guys are in the movies, to clean up their mess that they did. And there's nothing in this movie that really, if they literally changed the name of Godzilla to something else, it would have just been totally different, which actually is kind of funny. So let's jump into some trivia real quick.
Yeah. Hit me.
So Fruit of the Loom actually lost their license to sell any Godzilla-related apparel because they leaked images of Godzilla on the internet in November of '97, which was a year before, or about 7 months before the movie came out. And then what Fruit of the Loom didn't know was that unique fakes were released by the studio as part of an effort to see which companies they could trust to not leak images to the public. And so when they saw that they leaked it, then they immediately cut off like the actual merchandising, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
And then so let's talk.
I wonder if that hurt them more as well by not having another. I mean, not that they were the only big apparel company out there, but
right. I
by
don't know.
limiting them, I wonder.
I don't know. I mean, yet again though, like that's another thing aimed towards kids. You know, like that. I'm assuming that's the children's underwear that they would have had Godzilla all over it. And I don't think
Underoos, man.
I don't see a lot of now underoos. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, yeah. So let's talk about the director real quick. Roland Emmerich, not a fan of Godzilla. Like he did not like Godzilla. The original director was director Jean de Bonnat. Wait, I said that wrong. Jean de Bont. Wow, murdered his name. Sorry. Anyways, he wanted to do it for such a long time because he was a big fan of Godzilla, but he wanted to do the movie for $150 million, and the studio was like, "It's too expensive. We can't do it." So he left the project and went and directed Twister because originally he wanted to have Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt be the main characters in the Godzilla movie, which would have been leagues better, honestly.
Sure.
I mean, number one, Helen Hunt's is actually a phenomenal actress, and
oh yeah,
what's her face who plays Audrey? I think this was the only movie that she was in, or pretty much.
Yeah, I tried to look her up and see what else she had done, and it wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah,
so Helen Hunt would have been. Well, Helen Hunt was already a pretty big actress at the time, anyways.
Yeah, I think she already got the Academy Award for As Good as It Gets. I'm trying to remember. Anyways,
right. Well, and plus she was very popular from, was it Mad About You, that TV show?
I think so. I don't remember exactly. But so they got Roland Emmerich, who they gave him a massive paycheck, and coming off of Independence Day, who wouldn't want to hire Roland Emmerich, you know?
Yeah.
So they were like, absolutely. So he came in and he decided to take the project to do it for $125 million, but then that budget stretched up to $150 million anyways. So then it was kind of like, well, they should have just hired, Jan de Bont. But Roland Emmerich has expressed strong regret in taking the job. So like in this movie, it was never a passion project because he wanted to do another disaster film, but they already, like, he didn't have the go ahead to do it. So he took this job basically. Right. And
so the Day After Tomorrow was, I can't remember. That's the one that was after this one, right?
Yeah, that was 2003, I think, when that came out.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the one he basically wanted to make then, or something like that.
Right. Exactly. And so, which that movie, again, is more serious than this movie. What am I saying? Okay,
random thought real quick. Do you think he, in a way, sabotaged this movie?
I kind of do, actually, because like I was literally about to read this. Toho Studios gave the American creators a 75-page dossier of what they can and cannot do with Godzilla's character. This includes the following rules. Then let me know if Godzilla doesn't do any of this in the movie. Godzilla cannot eat people. Only fish. He has to have 3 rows of dorsal plates, no more, no less than 3 toes on his feet and 4 fingers on his hands. He cannot be made to look silly. He cannot die in the movie. He did all of those. And so
yes.
That's the biggest like FU that like I could imagine. I'm like, man, like I don't know why. Like Emmerich had it out, or maybe Dean Devlin did. Well, actually, Dean Devlin had expressed that he got really wrapped up in producing other things at the time, that he didn't focus as much as he normally would on the screenplay. So he, while he was championing it when it first came out, now he was like, no, I actually regret that I didn't aim or do that as much as possible.
Right.
Focus in on that. And so then basically Patrick Tatopoulos, the guy who designed this Godzilla, he actually, the only instructions that Roland Emmerich gave him was he should be able to run incredibly fast and it shouldn't resemble a dinosaur too closely. So that's literally like, he could have done anything and Emmerich would have been like, yeah, that's pretty cool, you know? Which it's pretty crazy.
He still made it look like a dinosaur.
I know, right? Well, no, lizards aren't dinosaurs.
Well, there you go. But no, it is straight up, a T-Rex or something running through there with longer arms. It was very dinosaur-like versus all the Godzillas. Basically, as everyone knows, the original Godzilla, it was just a dude in a suit stomping around in a bunch of miniatures.
What?
So therefore, the way the body was designed, it's just a little bit more human-like, the way he's upright versus the way he tilts forward and the tail helps him balance. The Godzilla, basically for the most part, his tail's just there. It's not sticking straight out when he's running around like a dinosaur. It was just incredibly dinosaur-like.
Right. No, absolutely.
Which is fine. It's just not Godzilla.
You know what's interesting though? They were already bringing in like some major muscle to make this movie actually legit. They hired Stan Winston, who designed the original Godzilla. I haven't seen it, but I want to see his design of Godzilla. That would probably have been super cool.
I would assume it's awesome. But kind of going back to what we were saying, talking about Roland Emmerich, if I at the time really was aware of directors, I knew who Steven Spielberg was and
right.
Scorsese, I guess. But for the most part, I really didn't pay attention at that point to directors as much as I did even a few years later. Mm-hmm. And if being a fan of Stargate and Independence Day, and especially Independence Day, I definitely would have been super psyched. I would have had very high bar set for this movie. And like you said, these other movies are very serious and intense. And it was just, this movie's, it's fine that there's jokes and everything, but it's like you said earlier, kind of poking fun of itself.
It does
the whole time,
right? Like the one scene where Jean Reno, like they get dressed up as army military, and then they're all chewing gum, and he's like, "Why the chewing gum?" And he's like, "It makes us look more American," and it's funny, but it's like that whole crew is like, there's no smart people in this movie at all. The military are idiots, and like it makes them look so dumb that they even say in the movie they destroy more of Manhattan than Godzilla does.
Right, and that is, okay, that's a funny thing, but I feel like if this movie was supposed to be funny, like it was some kind of a comedy. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this is at all ever billed as a comedy.
No.
So then I would buy the jokes like that. But that's a huge, it's way over the top how much they destroy the city. Right. And Godzilla's just, he's not that bad. This military is ridiculous at how bad they are at killing it. And then that kind of goes to the French Secret Service, which that seems like I feel like special ops is probably more what they were supposed to be. And it's like, these are the lamest nerd, dudes they can get to be the special ops guys.
I know. And they all look like
sending in this
dudes.
crack team. Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jean Reno is the only guy who actually looked like he would remotely be on a team like that. Everybody else, you're just like, oh, these are the hackers. Oh, wait, these are supposed to be the muscle. Okay.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing, too, because they initially, yes, they fit the bill. They look like a bunch of nerds, doing surveillance stuff and just tracking them that way. And then when they all strap up, it's like, oh, good Lord. And then when they fight, it's just embarrassing, too.
I know, it's bad. It's so bad. Honestly, I think to use the word loosely, I think the biggest badass in this movie would be Hank Azura, and like
totally, yes,
it's Hank Azura, it's the Blue Raja. So,
and he's awesome. I love him, and he's always got some sort of a comedic line. I swear every movie he's in, if he's not just the straight up comedy relief, he's always got some kind of a zinger, and he's brilliant. He's definitely one of my, I love a lot of actors, but he's one of my favorite actors. I always enjoy seeing, the characters he plays. And so his character was a lot of fun, and it was believable.
Right. Yeah.
And he was the toughest dude out there, just about.
It is. Yeah. Let's, going back to this real quick. Let me just drop a little bit more trivia before we really break. I got a lot of notes. I know you do too. Let's see here. So, the original script, the Godzilla design, that was originally designed by Stan Winston. It was going to look very different. And at that time, Spawn was really big with Stan Winston. So that would have been, that's Todd McFarlane. Never mind. Anyways, so this movie, though, would have been Godzilla as a reptilian monster that had hibernated for thousands of years, and upon its awakening, encountered and fought a shape-shifting alien monster, which was called the Griffin. And both of them were designed by Stan Winston. That sounds like a Godzilla movie. In this movie, Godzilla is the villain of circumstance just because he exists. So he didn't have anybody to save the humans from, so he's just the bad guy, or a very unusual he. It's just like, one thing though I will say though, with the second time I watched this movie, I really enjoyed that they had like baby dinosaurs in it, because then that was a total ripoff of like the raptors from Jurassic Park. Yes. And I was like, oh, this is good. They rip off Jurassic Park so much in this movie, though.
Big time.
Like the whole taxi chase scene when they're just like, he's getting closer. And I was like, faster, faster, must go faster.
Right.
Which, by the way, if I just blanked on his name, the guy who plays Ian Malcolm, Jeff
Goldblum.
Goldblum. If he was the main character in this movie would be so much more popular right now.
Sure.
Right.
Well, he was a cool. Okay, I don't know if "cool nerd" is the right word, but
yeah,
he was definitely true. Okay. He was an intellectual, but he was able to kind of pull off that rock star look, which in in the book, in the Jurassic Park book, he is that is his character. He's a rock star mathematician,
right?
Not literally rock star, but he is a super cool leather jacket wearing, legit cool dude who happens to be a genius. And so they kind of pull that off with Jeff Goldblum, because he kind of rides that line of like he can be that cool dude and he can just go straight nerd. So he rides the line pretty well. And I'm sorry, there's no way you can make Matthew Broderick a tough dude or even a cool dude. I mean, he was when he was younger. That's actually something I put in my notes, that when he was younger, he definitely had more of the edgy, cool teen, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ferris Bueller, yeah.
Which is, huge. If you're going to think of him, that's probably what you would think of. And he's a cool character. And then he just kind of went to goofy nerd and then schlubby old man kind of roles, which is fine. I'm not dogging him as an actor or his performances, but I feel like he should have been a little bit cooler, a little bit tougher in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't get it. The two main characters, it's funny, they actually address this part where like they were like, Audrey, you're too nice. You need to be meaner. And like literally the two main characters in this movie though are just, it's not that they're nice, they're just not interesting. They're so boring. I rather wish that Animal and his wife were the main characters in this movie. Like, it's just, which Jean Reno, I loved all this.
They're not even fully pushovers.
No.
They're just,
technically, Totopoulos isn't really, he's just kind of boring.
Right. I was just going to say, they're just uninteresting. They're very bland.
Yeah. But I feel like this is starting to become a thing with me reviewing Matthew Broderick leading movies. So far, he's 2 for 2.
2 for 2.
I know. 2 for 2, and he made the movie worse, in my opinion.
But, hey, we should review the producers sometimes, because
that's true.
That, to me, is more in his wheelhouse, where he just goes straight comedy.
Yeah.
And he just gets to be funny, and that's a great movie.
But I was going to say, though, lead role, though, was written specifically for Matthew Broderick. Think about it, though. 1996, Independence Day comes out, massive hit. Matthew Broderick, some of the same people come and talk to him like, hey, we're going to make Godzilla. You want to be the main person? And he's there. We don't have a script. And he's going to be like, yeah, no, I'll totally do it. Like, that sounds like a no-brainer. Absolutely. I get that. That's why, like, a lot of the Star Wars movies that people with these big actors would sign on to it without reading the script because they were fans of Star Wars. I mean, it's a little bit different. But the idea is just, like, it's got to be a hit. It's Godzilla. This is the first American version of it. It's got to be legit. Like,
you look at Roland Emmerich, what he's put out.
Right. And so it's going to be crazy. So Sony kind of killed the movie too, because they demanded a staggering 80% of the profits from larger movie theaters and 90% from smaller ones. That's literally killing it right there. Yeah, they normally would take about 60%, which is, that's kind of normal, I guess. 80 to 90%, they knew it was going to bomb before they released it, so they were trying to get as much as possible, which is that's a douche move.
It is. Well, it leaves no incentive for the theaters to have any promotions or try to, push it as well.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It was bad. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Matthew Broderick, Hank Azaria, and Jean Reno, they all disliked the film. Like when they saw it, a lot of actors too saw the movie and they were like, "Oh, this isn't that good." Like, so that's got to be weird though. You're filming a movie, big sets, you're excited, and then you go watch the movie and you're like, "Well, okay, that's it," Because when you like, really, the person who has the movie in their head is the director, or and some of the producers. They actually know the full scope of it. So, yeah.
I know these guys got to be thinking my career is over. That's got to be such an awful feeling.
And honestly, it kind of was for a decent amount. Like Hank Azaria, this could have made him, which he's in other stuff. He's obviously in The Simpsons and things like that. But he could have become a leading man, and this movie just didn't do it for him.
Right.
Also, too, this is interesting, though. Really interesting point. says because this movie underperformed and was criticized so bad for being unfaithful to its source material, Sony actually, when they decided to make Spider-Man 4 years later, which has been in development hell for like, 15, 20 years, they made sure they hired a director who was a fan of what they were adapting, which Sam Raimi is a massive fan. And that's so interesting. Like, why would you hire a director that clearly tells you they don't like the source material? That just boggles my mind. That doesn't make sense, you know?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they were looking at his body of work and he was like, hey, he makes pretty good science fiction. Let's go with it. But yeah, like you said, so, okay, who cares? He makes great sci-fi movies. If he doesn't like it, you're not going to get his best work.
Right.
And to throw a fair chunk at him and to make this, I mean, I remember this was a big summer, or hyped to be a big summer movie when it came out.
No, this was supposed to be a huge hit. So, yeah, very interesting.
They had like two sequels lined up.
Right, yeah.
Originally.
Exactly. And the only thing they did after that was one season of a cartoon, which I liked. I did see that, actually.
Right.
But I didn't see hardly anything back in the days.
So do you think, my thought as I'm watching this movie is that if I saw this movie when I was 11, I think I would have loved it. I think I would have been super excited, like, this is an awesome movie.
I think so.
What do you think?
No, I think so too. I think it would have been pretty amazing. A lot of people say that, like, that they didn't like it because Godzilla was only on screen for like 8 to 11 minutes or something like that. But that's apparently the norm of how much Godzilla is in on regular movies. Apparently, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it seemed like the average amount. I don't feel like it was less than usual.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of odd that people would say that.
I do agree, though. I think this movie's too long. It's like round the clock's in at about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh yeah. No, it's for as fast paced as it is. It's long.
Well, I feel like they should have cut out. I was trying to think, like, what would you cut out of this movie? And I feel like the movie actually gets going once they go in to find the nest. And so if they cut out some of Godzilla being chased by the military, I felt like that was kind of boring. But
yeah.
But then again, you got to show off Godzilla, who's the main person. Like, people came for Godzilla, not for the nest.
Yeah,
anyways,
there should have done something in that, because I agree. Once it got to the point where they were like, "Oh, we won, yay!" It just felt like, and it was probably only 5, maybe 10 minutes, but it just felt like it dragged getting onto the nest part, and it really did feel like almost like another movie.
It did, yeah. Which sometimes that's like a second wave of like energy and interest, and you're like, "Ooh!" But then there's other times where it's like, "Oh my God, this movie's still going." So I feel like this movie kind of rides the line of that. I gotta read, though, a couple of reviews that came out. And so Roger Ebert says, "A big, ugly, ungainly device to give teenagers the impression they are seeing a movie." That's harsh. That is super harsh.
Yeah. I can't knock him on it, because, like I said earlier, I'm totally thinking, like, man, if I was a kid, I would have loved this. But I was a teenager.
Right.
No, it was goofy.
I agree, but I can't go with the argument of like, oh, we made it for the fans, and it's kind of like, no, you're spitting on your fan base then, like, this is
big time. Yeah, for sure, that's a slap in the face to fans.
Right. And then also too, like, saying like, oh, we made it for kids, so we don't have to try as hard. It's like, there's a lot of intelligent kid movies out there.
Sure.
So, but I agree with you. I think this was supposed to be a big dumb blockbuster movie, and I think that Emmerich he just didn't care about it, though.
Right.
All right, let's see here. Oh, yeah. So this is one thing I was thinking. So trying to compare Matthew Broderick to leading man Will Smith is just like immediately major difference. The first scene that you see Matthew Broderick in, he's singing in the rain, and you're just like,
right.
It's just immediately
so goofy.
You're just like, immediately you're like, this dude, can't wait for this guy to be killed off. Oh, crap. He's the main character. and so, I mean, I think the stuff that he does is funny in this movie, but not for a main character, dude. It was just bad. Right. Oh, okay. I also got to read this too real quick. This is actually on IMDb. It says this is like what the movie's about. A giant reptilian monster surfaces, leaving destruction in its wake as it strides into New York City. To stop it, an earthworm scientist, his reporter ex-girlfriend, and other unlikely heroes team up to save the city. That sounds... Okay, honestly, I'd watch it if I read that. But that sounds horrible, though.
It does.
A worm scientist and his ex-girlfriend reporter.
That sounds like a B sci-fi movie, like when they were really pumping them out in like the in the early 2000s or late 90s or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Made for TV movies. That totally sounds like that.
Absolutely. I was starting to pick this movie apart when I was watching it. I got about 12 minutes in and I realized I have to stop critiquing this movie because like there's so many things that I'm finding wrong with this that I'm just like, okay, nope, I got to put my mind on standby and just watch it and see if I enjoy this flick.
Yeah, and that's basically what I came to. It clicked in my head because I didn't like it when I first saw it. I was honestly watching it because I thought maybe you liked it the way you had brought it up last year when we were discussing what movies we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you seem kind of excited about it. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is one that he liked when he was a kid.
Right.
Which, I mean, it's like what Hook was for me. And so I kind of had that in mind. All right, well, I'm going to have an open mind to rewatch it.
Right.
Whatever. I didn't like it, originally, but hey, let me look at it with the scope of 20 something years later,
right.
See how it goes. But the thing that so I remember I thought the effects were kind of garbage. But at the same time,
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, you did say something about that earlier. But anyways, at the same time, it's special effects just don't tend to hold up terribly well. So I kind of wasn't going to hold that against the movie. But anyways, as I'm watching it, it really clicked for me. It's like just between the music and how much comedy was in it and just seeing the people they picked for it and just how the writing was going, even the dialogue from the military and everyone. I was like, this is so relaxed and fun. I mean, it's a fun movie. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think people had such a high bar of this is going to be a serious, awesome, modern Godzilla movie.
Right.
And it's not. And I was, again, that's just where it kept coming to my head. It's like, man, if I saw this when I was 10 or 11, I would have been blown away. Like, this is an awesome movie.
Right. And once again, shouldn't have named it Godzilla. Should have just named it something else. And like, I think people would have been, the expectations would have been totally different.
Absolutely.
It's a big deal. That'll kill a movie faster than anything. It's expectations. Yeah. Special effects. So
yes,
the special effects that they used on it, I agree. There's some scenes in this movie that are really bad. And so, which I love all the miniature scenes that they used in this, which was pretty awesome. But the CG, though, originally they had a certain type of film that they were going to print this movie on. And apparently it was like really good looking, really popped. But they couldn't get that film. So they had to put it on a regular type of film. So apparently, though, the Blu-ray version that was released like a couple years ago, they actually were able to transfer that onto that film. So the special effects look a lot better, apparently. So
interesting.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. I was trying to track it down. It's actually harder to find it on Blu-ray at a reasonable price. You can find it on DVD like anywhere.
You own this one?
Well, I did buy it for the podcast because I was just shopping and I was like, well, that gives me an excuse to buy it because I wanted to get the Blu-ray version of this. I was trying to find it. It's hard to find.
So you don't have the Blu-ray version?
I don't. I just have it on DVD, and it's like even the sound quality is bad. There's some parts of it where it like goes out of tune, and I'm like, oh man, the transfer to DVD, this is bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I streamed it. It's on Stars right now.
Oh, gotcha.
I just was curious if that was the Blu-ray version.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because they don't always. There was nothing. It didn't say anything special edition or anything. It was just Godzilla 1998.
Right.
So I don't know that it is anything more other than maybe the DVD version.
I need to check that out and compare it. That would be really interesting to see, for sure. But then I know we're really running long on time on this right now. But so Jean Reno, there was one guy that was reviewing this and he was like, so basically Jean Reno is in this movie where it's a bunch of French guys eating French food, saying Frenchy things, doing Frenchy things. And I was just like, that's so true. It's like any trope of French people from an American point of view is in this movie where he's like, you said this was French roast. And he's just like, it's French roast. Yeah.
But at the same time, the French trope of making fun of American things of how we think French things should be. So it was like a circular, joke basically.
The reason I was like, well, why did they decide to do the French people in this movie? And I was like, is Roland Emmerich French? I thought he was German. And I looked it up and he is German. So I don't know why they picked that, but it was so random because like technically it should have been a group of like Japanese people, There's like there's no Japanese people in this movie too. Which is anyways, like I'm not even a huge kaiju fan and I was like, dude, I'm sure the fan base like hated this movie when it came out.
Oh yeah. Well, like we've said 6 times already, it is a terrible Godzilla movie. But at the same time, it was, yeah, if we would have called it anything else, I mean,
Right.
I don't even know what you would call it without it sounding like, I don't think you could even market it in a way that would have had that big of a draw. I mean,
no,
that being
I agree.
said, Pacific Rim was awesome, and that was just a bunch of kaijus. But
that was Guillermo del Toro. That was like, well, the nerd culture is way bigger when that came out than I would say Godzilla came out. So, well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of nerd culture back then, but it wasn't as mainstream.
No, not mainstream at all compared to what it is now, or even in the last 10 years. But I mean, here we are. I'm kind of at final verdict personally, but.
All right. Well, yeah, let's roll into, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say in this movie. There was something, I don't remember. I just remember this movie. It was just cheesy. There was line after line in this flick that was just priceless. It was so bad. It's like,
sure.
I thought we talked about cutting back on the sweets. He's like, you leave my candy alone. I'm like, such a bad line.
I know. But all these lines are so intentional.
Right.
Which is why I was wondering, like, did they on purpose try to sabotage this film? Like, from the beginning? Because it's so intentionally silly. It wasn't just like, oh, this was supposed to be a really good comedic line. It's like, no, it's not. It's
not like there's one funny guy. Like in Independence Day, the one dude that's with Jeff Goldblum where he's like, oh, I got to call my family, got to call my mom, got to call my lawyer. Forget my lawyer. Like that dude's supposed to be the funny guy, And there's a couple other funny guys. But in this movie, it's like almost every character has terrible lines.
Right.
And so anyways, yes, let's go into our final verdict. So do you think that the movie hit its mark when it first came out?
Oh, man. I mean, no. I will give it a D. I would say, and that might be a little bit too generous, just looking at the box office and everything. But I do remember it having a presence. And that might have just... I mean, I feel like it was around, and even though I didn't like it, and I do remember in general people not being happy with it, it didn't mean that it, lots of kids weren't playing with the toys. Apparently not as many as I thought, but there's probably...
We were the only kids on the street. Everybody else hated it.
Right.
They were Sid from Toy Story. We're going to blow him up.
So it definitely, it had some bit of a pull toy-wise, maybe for little-wise, but... Yeah, it wasn't like such a bomb. I feel like that it disappeared because I feel like it kind of lingered as a,
I feel like it's bad breath. It just lingers.
Yeah, so, I was gonna try to come up with some kind of a.
I forgot about that. We barely briefed on that before we started recording. Godzilla doesn't have atomic fire in this. Like the one scene where he does apparently blows the stuff. I looked it up, and it's supposed to be harsh breath, and it ignites the fuel lines inside the cars that are flying forward. So that's not even a fire. It's just like strong breath. Another thing.
Wow, that's terrible.
It is. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
It's god awful.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy lays eggs like a mother fluffer. Like he just like it's like, oh, we're looking for 12 eggs. How about 200? Oh, that's a lot of fish. Like
right. Terrible. Maybe you were about to say this, but before when we were talking about doing this show, we were talking a few days ago, and you had a bomb to drop about how somehow this is still in the Godzilla canon.
Oh yeah, so Toho had the rights to this movie. So they basically, and I think it was Godzilla Forever Wars or something like that. You'll forgive me. I don't know my kaiju. But they referenced this movie as like there was another monster out there, and they were like, yes. The Americans thought it was Godzilla, but it's not. And so that's a reference to this movie. And then they actually have this guy, I guess, in another movie, and they call him Zilla. But technically, this movie, though, is still canon as Godzilla, so it's a little confusing. But they decided to actually pull this monster in as a different version of Godzilla. But it's not Godzilla. It's something else. So anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting how it actually technically is. Cool. It is Toho canon. So... I was like, okay, like I can deal with that.
That's points for taking a turd and, making it work with the rest of the franchise.
Placing it gently with the rest of the food.
Right. They could have just thrown it out, which a lot of other franchises do with a movie that doesn't work real well, or they change directions and they just want to pretend that something didn't happen. But that's cool. I like how they, it's just stupid Americans anyways, right? So I'm sure we kind of did that with
We did that with the original movie where they reshot all the Japanese actors with American actors and they edited it together and released it in America.
Right.
Anyways, okay, so for me, yeah, I give it a D because it technically didn't lose money, but it barely made all of its money back. So it was a box office. It wasn't necessarily a bomb because it didn't lose money, but it didn't really make it. So it totally makes sense why they just barely broke even. So yeah, I give it a D for sure. Because like I don't know anybody that is like, oh, you said Godzilla? I love that Matthew Broderick film, you know? Right. And I have to. I was trying to remind my wife, like she was like, which one is that? And then I was telling her about it. And she was like, I don't think I've seen that movie. And I started it. And she was like, oh yeah, I have seen this film. Let's see here. Is it still relevant today, Josh?
There is no way.
Yeah, I give it an F.
No way in heck.
Definitely think that it's not relevant. Personal enjoyment. How much did you enjoy this movie?
You know what? I actually give it a C.
Oh, okay.
Because I know, man, I surprised myself because I was like, you know what? Once I got over the fact that this is a terrible Godzilla movie and I just started to watch it for a kind of family-centric adventure movie that's not too scary for the kids, you know, but it tries to keep the pace going. It's got everything in it, all the military craziness. It's got a car chase scene. It's got Jean Reno. It just, I kind of ended up being like, you know what? This is kind of a fun movie. And I feel like it's gotten a lot harsher treatment than it really deserves if you can just take it for what it is.
Right.
Because I think it was, and I agree, if you're going to grade it and judge it as a Godzilla movie, it deserves all of that. But if you could just look at it as just a kaiju movie, it's not that bad. Yeah,
it's really not. Let's see. So there's movies that are like, they're so bad it's good. And this movie rides that line though for me because it's, like you said, there's intentional bad humor in it. It's intentionally cheesy. So is it really so bad it's good? Well, it's hard to say. For me though, I personally, I really enjoy this movie. This movie, it's bad. Like it's bad. I know it's bad. Like it's a cheesy movie. I gotta give it a B. I think almost a B plus because I just enjoy this film. It's so stupid.
Right.
It's just
it's just but lighthearted. I kind of look forward to watching it again. Like I almost was going to watch it with the girls and I was like, I don't remember if, does it get scary? I don't know. My kids are old enough to not be scared by it anyways, but that's just the dad in me. I kind of fall back on that. And I was like, well, maybe I'll watch it first because I really don't remember other than I didn't like it. And now that I've seen it, it's like, man, I think they'd have fun watching it too because it is kind of goofy and silly, but there's enough action and stuff going on to where it does kind of keep your attention. So yeah, I would watch it again.
I gotcha. Yeah. Is it a midnight watch?
I'm going to be firm on this and give it a no.
Oh, is it a midnight Josh?
No, not even a midnight Josh.
For me, dude, it's almost a midnight watch. There's so many parts of this movie that I really enjoy because it's so dumb, but it's not. But there are some boring parts in this movie, so it's not a midnight watch. That about wraps up today's episode, you guys. If you want to check out this movie, it is on Stars, and it's probably in every bargain bin in Walmart. So
yes,
definitely check this one out. If you're drunk, it's probably even better, honestly. So special thanks to our sound producer, Jake Colvin. And if you guys had as much fun as we did on this episode, please share it. Please subscribe. Just let us know that you enjoyed it. We would love that. That'd be awesome.
It would be very cool. And we did have a lot of fun on this one. So please subscribe, rate, review our podcast, especially if you listen to it on Apple Podcast. Check it out on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts. We're on just about every platform. And also, we'd love it if you check out our Instagram and our Facebook page. Check us out on Twitter. And we've got a hashtag going on What's Your Midnight Watch. And you can directly reach us at the Midnight Watch Podcast at gmail.com.
All right, everybody, you have a fantastic week. And okay, have a fantastic. Okay, you guys, you have a fantastic week. Oh man, this Stella Artois is going crazy right now.
Bringing puberty back.
Right, man. You guys have a great week, and as always, keep up the watch.